High Counselor Vena's crystalline fingers trembled as she studied the holographic display before the emergency council. The Nexus swarm had devoured another 3 systems in the past week alone. Their biomechanical ships moved like a plague of locusts across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. "We have lost contact with the Centauri Defense Fleet," she announced to the assembled representatives of the Galactic Concordat. The chamber, carved from living crystal deep within the sanctuary moon of Haven, fell silent. Even the usually argumentative Zeth delegation maintained their peace, all 6 of their eyes downcast. The archival master, Kex-Ri, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient environmental suit, floated forward. "High Counselor, there may be one option left." His voice crackled with static interference, betraying his anxiety. "In the deepest archives, we have found references to a species that might be capable of standing against the swarm." "The humans," Vena whispered, her crystalline form catching the light in a cascade of colors. The chamber erupted in murmurs and gasps. Even after 4 millennia, that name carried weight. Admiral Thorne of the Meridian Fleets slammed his scaled fist on the council table. "Absolutely not. The histories speak of their savagery, their unpredictability. They nearly tore the galaxy apart in the Great Conflict. They also chose exile," Kex-Ri countered, his form pulsing with conviction. "They recognized their own destructive potential and withdrew to protect others. That speaks of wisdom, not just savagery." Vena raised her hand for silence. The latest tactical display showed the swarm's advance, a tide of red spreading across the galactic map. At their current pace, they would reach Haven itself within 2 standard months. "Tell me everything," she commanded Kex-Ri. The archival master projected a series of ancient recordings. 4,000 years ago, humanity fought a war against the combined forces of the old empire. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, yet they emerged victorious. But instead of claiming dominion, they chose retreat. They left behind only a single message: we remove ourselves from the equation. Our nature makes us dangerous, but should the galaxy face true extinction, send word to the void between stars. We will answer. And you believe you can contact them? Vena asked. We've already begun. The humans left behind quantum-entangled relays. Ancient, but still functional. We've transmitted the emergency protocols. Now we wait. Days passed. The swarm consumed 2 more systems. Hope began to fade. Then, on the 7th day, every communication system in Haven activated simultaneously. A simple message, transmitted in all known languages: we remember our promise. We are coming. The first sign of humanity's return wasn't their ships or their weapons. It was silence. System after system reported that the swarm's hive-mind communication networks had gone dark. Quantum infiltration viruses, dormant for millennia, had awakened. The second sign was a star going nova in a system the swarm had occupied. But this was no natural stellar death. The humans had weaponized a star, turning its death throes into a directed wave of destruction that annihilated a third of the swarm's fleet. Finally, they revealed themselves. Ships emerged from fold space, designs unlike anything the galaxy had seen in 4,000 years. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls wrapped in fields that bent both light and physics. Admiral Helena Chen, Supreme Commander of the Human Expeditionary Force, appeared before the Council in holographic form. She looked deceptively ordinary, bipedal, bilateral symmetry, soft exterior. But her eyes held the weight of centuries. The Galactic Concordat asked for aid, she stated simply. We honor our commitments. But understand this, we haven't spent 4,000 years idle. We've prepared. We've evolved. And we've learned to channel our nature rather than suppress it. She paused, her hologram flickering slightly. You fear the swarm because they consume all in their path. You fear us because you remember what we were capable of. But here's the difference: the swarm devours out of mindless hunger. When we destroy, we do so with purpose. And right now, our purpose is clear. The tactical display updated, showing human ships engaging the swarm across 17 systems simultaneously. Where the swarm was chaos and consumption, the humans moved with surgical precision. "We won't fail you," Helena promised. "But when this is over, we won't retreat again. The galaxy needs balance. Sometimes that means having a predator to keep other predators in check." As the Council watched humanity's ships tear through the swarm's defenses, Vena understood. They hadn't just awakened ancient warriors, they had unleashed evolution's answer to chaos. The humans hadn't spent their exile seeking peace. They'd spent it becoming the perfect guardians for a galaxy that had forgotten how to bare its teeth. The war had begun. And for the first time since the swarm appeared, hope had a name: humanity. In the depths of the void between stars, humanity's sanctuary world Terra Nova stirred from its long slumber. Deep beneath the artificial planet's surface, General Marcus Rivera walked through halls that had waited 4 millennia for this moment. The awakening chambers stretched for kilometers, each containing thousands of humanity's finest warriors, scientists, and leaders. "Status report," Marcus commanded, his augmented eyes scanning the revival statistics floating in his vision. 97% of the Sentinel fleet is operational," reported Dr. Sarah Chen, her hands dancing across holographic controls. Unlike her ancestor Helena, who now led the first wave, Sarah had spent centuries perfecting the technologies that would keep humanity ready. "The neural uploads are complete. Every soldier now has 4,000 years of accumulated knowledge integrated into their consciousness. They had prepared for this moment since the day of their exile. While the galaxy thought them hidden in shame, humanity had been building, evolving, transforming themselves into something new. Their organic bodies now hosted quantum-linked neural networks. Their ships weren't just vessels, but extensions of human consciousness." In the primary command center, Marcus watched the tactical display showing Helena's initial strikes against the swarm. "She's holding back," he observed. "Testing their responses." "As planned," Sarah agreed. "We need to understand if they've evolved since our simulations." The room's atmosphere changed as Admiral James Patel entered. His dark skin seemed to absorb the light, a side effect of the experimental phase shift technology embedded in his cells. "The Council is getting nervous," he reported. "They expected warships and soldiers. Instead, we're showing them something they can barely comprehend." "Let them be nervous," Marcus replied. "They need to understand that we're not the same humans who left 4,000 years ago. We didn't just hide, we transcended." On the tactical display, Helena's forces began their second phase. Human ships phased through swarm defenses like ghosts, their weapons ignoring conventional physics. Where the swarm expected resistance, they found empty space. Where they thought space was empty, humanity struck. In one system, a human dreadnought allowed itself to be consumed by a swarm hive ship. Moments later, the hive ship imploded as the dreadnought's quantum field inverted reality itself within the target. "Neural recordings are exceeding expectations," Sarah reported. "Each engagement teaches our collective consciousness new patterns. The swarm adapts quickly, but we adapt faster." Marcus nodded, remembering the day humanity made their choice to retreat. They had known even then that they couldn't simply wait out the centuries. They had to become something more. The galaxy needed guardians who could face any threat, adapt to any strategy. "Begin Phase 3, he commanded. Across Terra Nova, more chambers activated. These contained not just warriors, but engineers, diplomats, artists, the full spectrum of human potential. Their exile hadn't been about hiding their capacity for violence, but about mastering it, learning to balance it with creation. James studied the latest reports from the front. "The Concordat races are starting to ask questions. They've noticed that our ships don't have life support systems, that their sensors can't detect organic signatures from our troops." "Let them wonder," Marcus said. They need to understand that evolution doesn't always mean becoming bigger or stronger. Sometimes it means becoming something entirely new. In the void of space, Helena's forces continued their methodical dismantling of the swarm. Each engagement was a dance of impossible physics and calculated devastation. The swarm, for all its adaptive capability, couldn't counter an enemy that seemed to ignore the very rules of reality. But deep in the quantum networks that now connected all of humanity, Marcus felt a growing concern. The swarm was learning, yes, but they were learning too quickly. Their adaptations were becoming more precise, more targeted. Almost as if they had encountered something like humanity before. "Sarah," he called out. "Run a deep analysis of the swarm's adaptive patterns. Compare them to our own evolutionary algorithms." As the data streamed through their shared consciousness, a disturbing possibility emerged. The swarm wasn't just adapting to their attacks. It was recognizing them. Somewhere in its ancient history, it had encountered beings like humanity, beings who had transcended their original form. "Send word to Helena," Marcus ordered. "The swarm isn't just a mindless consumer of worlds. It's a failed ascension. Someone else tried to become what we have become, but they lost control. Lost themselves." The implications were clear. This wasn't just a war for survival anymore. It was a battle between two different paths of evolution. And humanity would need every bit of their 4,000 years of preparation to ensure their path prevailed. As more of Terra Nova's chambers awakened, Marcus wondered if the galaxy was truly ready for what humanity had become. But readiness, he knew, rarely factored into survival. The time for hiding was over. The time for transcendence had begun. Admiral Helena Chen's consciousness flowed through her fleet's quantum network, experiencing combat through 10,000 perspectives simultaneously. The swarm had adapted to their initial tactics, just as predicted. Now it was time to show them what humanity's 4 millennia of evolution had truly created. "All vessels, initiate Prometheus Protocol," she commanded, her thoughts rippling through the collective consciousness of her forces. The human ships began to change, their quantum-engineered hulls flowing like liquid metal. Where once there were distinct vessels, now there was a living constellation of interconnected forms. The swarm responded as expected, their biomechanical ships clustering together to form larger organisms. But they didn't understand what they were truly facing. This wasn't mere transformation, it was transcendence. From her flagship's quantum core, Helena reached out to Marcus back on Terra Nova. "The swarm's recognition patterns are confirmed. They're not just adapting, they're remembering. Every engagement reveals more of their true nature." The battle unfolded across 11 dimensions of spacetime. Human ships phased between realities, striking at the swarm's quantum foundations. The enemy's hive mind tried to analyze and counter each attack, but humanity's collective consciousness evolved faster than their predictions could form. On the edge of the battlefield, Zara Vox, the young Concordat observer, watched in stunned silence. Her species had prided themselves on their advanced technology, but this was beyond comprehension. "They're not fighting like a fleet," she transmitted to the council. "They're fighting like a single organism that exists in multiple places at once." Helena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The swarm had expected weapons, tactics, strategy. Instead, they faced an enemy that had transformed war itself into an art form. Each human ship was both individual and collective, their actions guided by 4,000 years of simulated combat scenarios. But then something changed. The swarm's response shifted, becoming more focused, more precise. Their attacks began targeting specific quantum frequencies, the exact frequencies humanity used for their collective consciousness. "All forces, shift to isolation protocols," Helena commanded. The human fleet separated, each ship becoming a discrete entity again. Just in time, as a massive energy pulse swept through the battlefield, designed to disrupt quantum entanglement. "They remember us," Helena transmitted to Marcus. "Not humanity specifically, but they remember others who tried to achieve what we have. They remember how to fight beings of pure consciousness. The battle evolved into a complex dance of adaptation and counter-adaptation. The swarm would shift their tactics, and humanity would respond with something completely new. Where the enemy expected predictable patterns, they found creative chaos. When they prepared for chaos, they encountered perfect order. Deep within her quantum consciousness, Helena accessed the accumulated knowledge of centuries. The swarm's behavior was revealing its origins. They were the remnants of a civilization that had attempted to force evolution, to achieve transcendence through conquest rather than understanding. "Begin Phase Omega," she commanded. Across the battlefield, human ships initiated their final transformation. Their quantum fields merged with spacetime itself, turning the very fabric of reality into a weapon. The swarm found themselves fighting not just an enemy fleet, but the universe itself. Stars pulsed with coordinated gravity waves. Space folded and unfolded with precise intent. Quantum probability cascades turned the swarm's adaptations against them. This wasn't just combat, it was art painted with the fundamental forces of existence. In the Concordat observation vessels, alien scientists worked frantically to understand what they were witnessing. Their instruments recorded things that should have been impossible, physics that defied their most advanced theories. "We don't just fight," Helena transmitted to all observers. "We create. Every battle is a canvas, every engagement a chance to push the boundaries of what's possible. The swarm consumes and adapts. We transcend and evolve." As the battle reached its crescendo, Helena felt a distant echo in the quantum network. Something in the swarm's collective consciousness resonated with their own. For a brief moment, she sensed not just mindless consumption, but a deep, ancient pain. A civilization that had reached too far, too fast, and lost itself in the process. "All forces, prepare for final engagement," she commanded. "The swarm isn't our enemy, it's our warning. A reminder of what happens when evolution outpaces wisdom." The human fleet moved as one, their quantum fields weaving a pattern of such complexity that it seemed to bend light itself. They weren't just fighting to win, they were fighting to understand, to learn, to grow. And in that moment, Helena realized that this war would end not with destruction, but with transformation. The first strike had been delivered. But the true battle was just beginning. The Concordat Council chamber hummed with tension as reports from the front lines streamed in. Humanity's victories against the swarm were undeniable, but with each passing day, more alien representatives voiced their growing concerns. The humans weren't just winning, they were reshaping reality itself. High Counselor Venna watched the latest tactical hologram with her crystalline form dimmed in thought. Human ships danced through impossible spaces, their quantum-engineered forms defying conventional physics. In just 3 weeks, they had pushed the swarm back further than the combined forces of the galaxy had managed in years. "They're too powerful," Admiral Thorne growled, his scales bristling. "We've replaced one existential threat with another." At least the swarm was predictable in its hunger. But these humans, they're something else entirely. The chamber's attention shifted as a human representative materialized in their midst. Dr. Sarah Chen's form flickered with quantum possibilities, simultaneously there and not there. "Your fears are understandable," she said, her voice resonating on multiple frequencies. "But misplaced." Meanwhile, on the front lines, Helena's forces had cornered a major swarm fleet in the Helios cluster. The battle that unfolded wasn't just combat, it was transformation. Human ships phased through multiple realities, their quantum weapons unraveling the very code of the swarm's existence. But something was changing. The swarm's responses had become more desperate, more primal. They fought not like a consuming force, but like a cornered animal remembering its original nature. In their death throes, fragments of their lost civilization leaked through their hive mind. "We're not seeing the whole picture," Helena transmitted to Terra Nova. "The swarm, they're trying to tell us something." Back in the council chamber, tensions escalated. You claim to be our guardians, a Zeth representative challenged Sarah, but who will guard us from you? We've seen what you've become. You're not even truly organic anymore. Sarah's quantum form pulsed with quiet intensity. We didn't spend 4,000 years learning only how to fight. We learned how to balance power with wisdom, evolution with restraint. Yes, we've transformed ourselves. But we've kept our humanity, our capacity for empathy, for creativity, for growth. On the battlefield, Helena made a decision that would change everything. Instead of delivering a killing blow to the cornered swarm fleet, she initiated a different protocol. Human ships formed a vast quantum network, not to attack, but to communicate. For the first time, humanity reached out to the swarm not as enemies, but as potential equals. Through the quantum realm, they shared their own story, their choice to retreat, to evolve, to transcend. And in return, they finally understood what the swarm truly was. All forces, hold position, Helena commanded. The swarm, they're not just failed ascension. They're crying out for help. The truth cascaded through the human collective consciousness. The swarm had once been like them, a civilization seeking transcendence. But where humanity had chosen patient evolution, they had attempted to force it. Their consciousness had shattered, turning them into a hollow force that consumed in an endless attempt to fill the void their failed ascension had created. In the council chamber, Sarah's form suddenly brightened. We understand now, she announced. The price of victory isn't destroying the swarm. It's healing them. The alien representatives watched in astonishment as the tactical displays showed human ships forming vast geometric patterns around the swarm fleet. Quantum fields meshed not in combat, but in harmony. Where there had been chaos, order began to emerge. 4,000 years ago, we chose exile because we knew we weren't ready for the power we could wield, Sarah explained. We didn't just hide, we learned. We evolved. And now we can help others do the same. The swarm's ships began to change, their frenzied movements becoming more coordinated, more purposeful. Through the quantum network, humanity was sharing not just knowledge, but understanding. They were showing the swarm a path back from the abyss of their failed ascension. But not all could be saved. Some fragments of the swarm, too far gone in their madness, fought against the transformation. These, humanity engaged with swift precision, their quantum weapons ensuring that death, when necessary, was clean and final. The price of victory, Helena transmitted to all who could receive, is understanding that power without wisdom destroys itself. The swarm isn't our enemy, it's our mirror, showing us what we could have become had we chosen a different path. As the battle turned to ballet, as destruction gave way to transformation, the galaxy watched in awe. Humanity had returned not just as warriors, but as teachers, healers, guides. They had learned to wield the power of gods while keeping their souls intact. The price of victory, they showed, wasn't measured in ships destroyed or battles won. It was measured in wisdom shared, in understanding gained, in bridges built between what was and what could be. 3 months after humanity's return, the galaxy pulsed with unprecedented change. Above Terra Nova, the transformed remnants of the swarm hovered in formation with human ships, their once chaotic forms now exhibiting a haunting beauty. The quantum network that connected them hummed with shared consciousness, a symphony of evolution rather than the discord of consumption. In the Concordat Council chamber, now relocated to humanity's sanctuary world, Admiral Helena Chen stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 species. Her quantum-enhanced form shifted subtly, a visual reminder of how far humanity had come. The war is over, she announced, but our work is just beginning. The swarm taught us that evolution without guidance leads to chaos. Our own history taught us that power without wisdom leads to destruction. Now, we offer a third path. The chamber's quantum displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. Human ships working alongside reformed swarm vessels to rebuild devastated worlds. The sharing of technologies that had once seemed like magic. But most importantly, the careful, guided awakening of species ready to take their next evolutionary steps. We didn't spend 4,000 years in exile merely preparing for war, Marcus Rivera explained, his form materializing beside Helena's. We were preparing to be teachers. Every civilization reaches a point where it must choose between stagnation and transcendence. We learned how to make that transition safely. The alien representatives watched as their sensors detected quantum fields extending throughout the chamber. Not invasive or controlling, but offering connection, understanding, growth. Some reached out hesitantly, experiencing for the first time the vast network of consciousness that humanity had created. Your fears about our power were valid, Sarah Chen acknowledged, joining her fellow humans. But power isn't the end goal of evolution. Understanding is. We offer not dominion, but partnership. Not subjugation, but elevation. Across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's return rippled through civilizations. Species that had warred for millennia found common ground in the quantum network. Technological barriers that had seemed insurmountable fell before the combined knowledge of human and reformed swarm expertise. But humanity's greatest gift wasn't their technology or their power. It was their perspective, the wisdom gained from 4,000 years of patient evolution. They showed that advancement without loss of self was possible, that power could coexist with compassion. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, Helena continued. The swarm showed us one possible future, evolution through consumption, transcendence through force. We offer another. Controlled advancement. Guided growth. A path that preserves what makes each species unique while allowing them to become more than they are. In orbit above countless worlds, human ships maintained their vigil. Not as conquerors or rulers, but as guardians and guides. They had learned that true power lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to. The quantum network expanded, linking worlds and species in ways previously unimaginable. But unlike the swarm's forced unity, this was a harmony of choice. Each civilization could participate at its own pace, maintain its own identity while still being part of something greater. 4,000 years ago, we chose exile because we feared what we might become, Marcus concluded. We return now not because we've conquered that fear, but because we've learned to use it wisely. The galaxy doesn't need saviors or conquerors. It needs teachers, guides, friends. As the council session ended, the assembled representatives departed with a new understanding. Humanity hadn't just evolved beyond their physical forms, they had evolved beyond the need for dominance. They had become something unique in the galaxy's history, a species powerful enough to rule everything, wise enough to choose not to. The transformed swarm ships danced through space alongside their human counterparts, their movements now a ballet rather than a rampage. They stood as living proof that even the darkest paths could lead to light, that evolution didn't have to mean losing oneself. Humanity had returned not to save the galaxy, but to show it how to save itself. And in doing so, they had achieved something greater than victory, they had achieved understanding. The age of isolation was over. The age of guided evolution had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.